Hey, happy Father's Day, everybody. My name's Ethan, one of the pastors here. And today, we, on this Father's Day, we thought it would be a great idea to have a conversation with some of our dads in the church. And so joining me on the stage today are three of our fathers who are members of the Bridge, all seasoned dads we're hoping loads of wisdom today for us. But seasoned, obviously, at various stages of fatherhood. But we thought it'd be great to have some dads share with us today. So, men, thank you for joining us. I'm going to let you introduce yourself. So, if you would introduce yourself and give us a little snapshot about your family, makeup, kids, grandkids, the whole nine yards.
I'm Bob Brock. I figured it out. Without a doubt, I'm the oldest one here. In fact, I think all of my kids are older than most of the people on the panel. We have our original family of three adopted kids. Our two daughters are 48 and 49, and our son is 53. And then we have another family that we just kind of added by foster care. And then the other one is by osmosis, where we have two foster daughters who are 41 and 42. And then a young man who, term I use, he followed us home from church one Sunday, and after he'd been in prison for 10 years. And it was in desperate need of needing a family. And so that's our family. We claim real deeply to the idea that God is the father of the fatherless. And as we think of these children that we have had in our family, we see his hand in their lives and want to continue to see it grow in their lives.
That's great. Thanks, Bob.
You tricked me with the questions on grandchildren. The grandchildren are, I think we have 4 of them, if I've counted correctly.
So my name's Rich Augie. I have 3 children, 24, 22, and 19, Alexandria, Olivia, and Eliana, and 2 son-in-laws that have come into our family over the past 12 months. We had 2 weddings in 11 months, which was quite fun.
Yeah. One of my questions is, how do you pay for that? You know?
We asked for a little bit of time between them, and so we got 11 months.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But no, that's great. Owen and Noah are our daughter's husbands, and we've thoroughly enjoyed bringing them into our family.
Robbie Parker. I have 2 teenage girls, 13 and 15, wife Maggie. We've been at the Bridge for 8 years or so now, and so I am right in the middle of quite a bit of estrogen and everything else. I do have a dog named Cole, and he and I, in the mornings, it's just the greatest time. I often tell him he's my favorite person in the house all the time. So.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you for joining us today. You know, I want to press into the realities of fatherhood, and everyone in the room has been impacted on some way or another by fatherhood. And I hope we get into some good real stuff. But let's start with something light, something a little bit lighter. And so I'd love for each of you to share just what's something, or what's your favorite part of fatherhood?
So for me, having 2 girls, I guess it's sort of just the very intimate things that I have just between me and them. So it's just like our things that are really important to me. Like, for example, I'll let y'all behind the curtain a little bit. My youngest, CK, and I, we have this one rule. And the rule is, and it's been this way since she was little, is that no matter when it is or what it is or how expensive it is, she can steal my food. Doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter where we are, what we're doing, she can take my plate, take all of it, eat it, do whatever. So we've had this for a long time. It started out as something kind of funny, but really there's a deep truth in it, right? It's that everything I have is hers, and that if she comes to me, she can have what's mine. And so the hope in that is that, you know, she'll see God in the same way. And so it's just been like those small things with her. With Emma, man, she's a challenger. She is a challenger. Full of questions. And so for her, our intimate thing is I have to get deep with her. A surface level thing will never work. So when it comes to seeing her, I know that she's a natural born leader. So she's going to do great things, but she needs deep. So when I'm explaining something I have to go really deep with her, but I enjoy it because like I can see she's there and she's really digging into it. So those kind of things with the girls, just getting to dig in and having those intimate things that are just ours.
I'd say for me, it's kind of been changing. So initially, it would have been just time with my daughters. I enjoyed having that time. We would do a lot of things together. We actually, the three of us trained in, the two older ones and I trained in martial arts for a couple of years together, which was fun, putting gloves on and
Wow.
helmets and letting your daughters hit you and having a chance to
Wow.
hit them. And I guess I should say refraining from hitting them. But it was fun. Now it's more getting to see the adults that they're growing into, kind of that next level, and seeing how they're setting up their own households now. They're growing into marriage, and just that transition to me has been really beautiful to see.
That's interesting. The thing for me, when the kids were younger, it was always that individual time that you would spend with them. My son and I, when he turned 13, we went camping together. And it was just one of those very special times when we helped pull a car out of the ditch. We did all kinds of other things that made that a special time. As the kids have gotten older, the thing that has been most exciting is to see them find their passions. Each of them in their own ways has their own gifts that we've seen. One of the daughters is a culinary arts student, and so to see her in the kitchen running things was exciting to see. Our son is a teacher, and he was the teacher in that school that every kid wanted to be in his classroom. And so to see the kids in their passion has been the thing as they've gotten older that's been exciting to see.
That's great. Robbie, I'm going to pass it back over to you. And, I think there is a reality that is impactful for me, and I think we all feel it. We may not put the same language to it, but really, I would say in our society, fatherhood is on trial. And if we look at the greater society, arts, media, TV shows, movies, whatever, dads are kind of the joke of society.
Sure, yeah.
But what would you say as men from a kind of Christ-centered perspective? Robbie, this is going to be your question. Then guys, feel free if you'd like to jump in, no pressure. But what would you say for you, Robbie, is the role, of fatherhood, the way that you see it?
Yeah, so I actually needed to write some things down on this. It's such a big question. I mean, it really is a big question. I think so much of fatherhood, if I can say it this way, is like long-term discipleship. I guess the only difference is, like, if I'm meeting with one of you, like I meet with some men here, we might text during the week, and I might, meet, and we know each other pretty well, but you don't see every part of my life, and our kids do. So if I had to sort of try to nail it down in a statement, I think I'd say, I've got written down here, it's a pattern of consistent faith and faith building with the goal of teaching our kids to be image bearers who expand the kingdom of God, which is just a long way of saying that, like, as being a dad, consistency is one of the most important things as a father. I mean, it's not just consistency of like making sure you come home every night, which you should, but just the consistency of making a decision that the decisions that I make, the things that I say and how I do things impact my kids. I mean, I am the primary voice in my house. And I'll say that again, let me say it a different way. We should be the primary voice in our house, not to the exclusion of our wives or anyone else that's speaking into our life, but when it comes to setting a tempo, it should be us. The challenging part for me when I talk about consistency and creating image bearers who expand God's kingdom is there's my kingdom that's set up against his, even in how I parent, right? I feel like even now as having teenagers, I wish I would have understood this earlier, is there's like so much of the way I have parented in the past was just simply wanting my kingdom to run smoothly. So not to be annoyed by my kids, right? To want order for the sake of order. all those kind of things that they seem kind of okay and they're morally good. And yes, kids should obey. But like somewhere along in there, it's become my kingdom and what I want. I just wrote down, foolishness might be bound up in the heart of a child, right? We know that verse, but so is Christ's childlike faith, right? They're both in there. And so getting to see your kids kind of move from foolishness being bound up to like childlike faith being on display, I think that's the purpose and the goal, to see that.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Rich, specific question for you is, you now have, I think there's a reality that we have to understand as fathers and as parents, is that we cannot control all the outcomes of our kids' lives. And we would like to. We'd like to control who they marry, what job they have, how much money they make, their spiritual, all the stuff. But we don't have control of those outcomes. We only have control of the process of when they are in our homes. You now have three adult children. I don't know them extremely well, but following Jesus, loving Jesus. What would you say are some of the things that you've done that you feel like you've done well as it relates to their spiritual journey and formation?
So Jen and I kind of made a decision. I think it goes back to when.
Hold that mic up just a little bit closer,
sorry.
Rich. Yeah.
When Alexandria was close to 10 years old, we decided that I would take each of the girls on a mission trip, short-term mission trip. So Alexandria and I went to Arizona, did basically a Bible school for Native American children. It was awesome. It was, for her, it was great. For me, it was great. For us together, it was really sweet. Just to put her in a different situation. And we were together yet separate. So, she was with the female children, I was with the males, and she had to kind of stand on her own. And that was awesome. And then Olivia and I had the opportunity to go to Guatemala and did some home building down there. And just getting to minister and serve others was huge. And really, that's kind of changed the trajectory, I think, of our family, in that, I'd never been on a mission trip. At that point in time, Jen had never been on a mission trip. And really, after that, Jen had the opportunity to go to Haiti with both of the girls. Alexandria and I had a chance to go to Haiti. We're actually, Alexandria and her husband Owen and myself are going to Honduras in August as part of the mission trip. And we're still working on getting Eliana to the mission field. We're working through some things with her that we really need to get that stuff in order before taking her out there. But that has just, to me, has not only impacted the girls and their spiritual formation, but ours. I mean, like I said, it really had an impact to us. So, to take your female child on a trip is difficult in its own. There's just differences that you have to deal with. But I would encourage, it's a great way for bonding between a father and son, father and daughter, mother and son, mother and daughter, just to get out there and for them to see you and see you get pushed beyond your limits and to see them get tested and to see them step up, I think was just amazing.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, Bob, question for you. You've been fathering for a long period of time, and I'm sure you've seen a lot, and experienced a lot. And I'm sure there are ways that fatherhood hasn't always panned out the way that you would have intended. What kind of advice would you give these younger fathers who are, starting out and beginning and trying to figure it out?
Well, like the others, I wrote some notes down as well. The first thing that came to mind is our pastor at our old church in Milwaukee said the best thing you can do as a parent, as a father, is to love your wife. And so that's perhaps one of the key things. A second thing is to spend time with each child separately. And it's not just time of doing things with them, but also a time of spiritual growth. So spend time with them. At one point in time, my wife and I took a day off, and what we did is we prayed for each of the kids individually, and we happened to be going through Psalm 119 at the time. And so we found like a verse for each of the kids. And so what we did is off and on over the years, we've been pretty much trying to pray those verses over and through our kids' lives. So then the idea then is to pray with them, and then to pray separately for them and to pray with them as well. And then to try to find their passion and encourage them in that area. With each of the kids, we've, what is it? Would you like to play sports? We would get involved in those sports with them. Would you like to, with one of the kids, it was photography, getting her involved with finding photography. And she eventually, when this was one of the foster daughters, when she went to school, she got her degree in fine arts and photography. So encouraging those areas of their lives that they just need help in. Then also not being afraid of reaching and asking for help out in the community. The church community was always important, and it's interesting during the songs that were coming, and I wasn't sure if I was going to share this story or not, but it came that I really needed to share it. I kiddingly said that every gray hair on my head has come from our youngest daughter. She started running away from home when she was in 6th grade. And we had a program for her, and she ran away when she was in 7th grade. And she was on the streets of Milwaukee for a month. And you can't do that by yourself. You can't take care of that by yourself. We went before the church and spoke, and we asked for people to help us. And we made those flyers that you see hanging around. We made those flyers. We handed those out. And one of the flyers was actually out in the inner city of Milwaukee, and someone saw it and recognized our daughter and called, and we were able to have her come home. But the thing that brought that back to me was reaching out for help in the community, because the church community is what really helped us through that excessively difficult time.
Yeah, wow. Okay, spontaneous question. I know I tried to give you guys a heads up on as many as possible, but I've got
Okay.
I've got to throw you a little bit of a curveball. I have 3 girls who are ages 12, 10, and 9, Nora, Harper, and Claire. What's crazy to me, and I guess I knew this intellectually, but then when you experience it personally, is how different each of your children are. And some are easier in some ways, and some are difficult in some other ways. But this is just a little bit of a question, if any of you want to answer this. But how do you lead your different children individually and differently?
I mean, whew. So I think knowing them really, taking the time to know them really well is the most important thing.
Yeah.
For example, like ever since CK was little, she has been really connected to music, right? So if I want her to hear scripture, I turn on a song. I'm not going to read the word to her. Because, while it's good and profitable, if she can connect through music, that does something really important for her. So that's just an example, is just knowing your kids and knowing exactly what they need. And I'll talk about this more on another question, is just making sure they have a voice. It's so easy when you're in a difficult situation or when you're with your kids, it just sort of, what's best for them, but you don't give them space to tell you what they think is best so that you can really hear. One of the things I heard one time that's always stuck with me is, what's the opposite of speaking? And most people would say listening, but the real answer is waiting your turn to talk. And that's really how most of us are with our kids. So taking the time to actually listen to what they have to say and not just wait for them to talk so you can tell them what you really want them to hear.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, Bob kind of touched on it earlier. I think spending time with each child individually to know them. Robbie talks about how CK's love of music is one way that he would be able to get the word to her. If he didn't spend that time with her, he's not going to know that. So I think it's spending the time identifying what your children enjoy and connecting with them on those points. It gives you the ability to, when the time is right, to have conversations, to speak into their life and to let them speak.
Yeah, that's good.
I was just thinking with the two foster daughters, they didn't come into our lives till they were like a freshman in high school and in 8th grade. So that's a whole different kind of perspective. But they were involved in the youth group at church. And one of the things I learned is turn off the radio. I love sports, and I would be listening to sports, and the sports teams would be on. And I realized I just turned the radio off. And then lo and behold, they just talked all the way home. And you caught up with what was happening in school. You caught up with what was going on. And just giving them the opportunity to talk and listen to them.
I love that. Another spontaneous question. This is an easy one, though. It just occurred to me as all three of you men have been here for a while and are members and consider the Bridge, a faith family to be committed to be invested in. Right now, probably more than ever, at least in my lifetime, all the other opportunities, all the other distractions, all the other extracurriculars. How do you keep the church a priority, while all the other things are kind of grabbing at you?
Well, yeah. Time, making sure you have set aside the time to do what needs to be done. We have our daughter lives at home with us. Some of you may know Kara. She's the 49-year-old. So someone was wondering how old she was. I can't believe that she's that age. And when you see her, you'll wonder as well. But encouraging her to come to church, making sure she's here, reminding her of the friends that she has, letting her know that, and just encouraging her to be here. We've found that our community group has really been an important part of what's happening and going on for us and made us feel a part of the community here. So that was a key part for us.
I guess I would kind of add to what Bob said. It's anchoring. You set your anchor points. What are those? The church on Sunday is an anchor point. Your community group, your children's youth group. Those are things that you set in kind of stone, and you work around that. We try to protect that.
Yeah.
There are other things that want to come in and compete with it,
Yeah.
and sometimes you have to say no to things, and that's hard, especially when it's an opportunity for your children. But by setting that priority, it's teaching them a lesson.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I'll just say saying no is one of the most important things you can do as a parent. That's good. And you can say no at church. It's okay. And if you're overwhelmed here and you're doing too much, you can say no. I mean, I look out over. There's plenty of people here, and some of y'all are sitting in the background and need to get involved, and some of you are overworked and you can't even find time for your kids. So really examine that and consider and just say no. I mean, give an off ramp because they need it, but be willing to say no.
Have any of you ever had children who, go ahead, Bob.
It just struck me as he was saying that. I was on the church council when I was back in Wisconsin, and I was going to miss the church council meeting because my son had a soccer game and I was coaching and had to be there. And he said, that's more important than the council meeting. And so making sure that the value of the family is encouraged through the church. You need to be with your family. They need to know that they're more important than what's happening here.
Yeah, that's good. Have any of you ever had a child that didn't want to come to church for a season or for...
Sunday.
All right. Robbie said every Sunday.
Every Sunday.
Okay. I think that what's that like? I mean, how do you navigate? I mean, obviously, I say kind of jokingly, the only drug I ever took as a teenager or a kid is I was drugged to church, every week. And looking back as an adult, I'm pretty grateful for that, So how do you manage that tension of like, you don't want to like force spirituality or religion on your child, but you want to put them in the environment and the context for, the people of God and the family of God?
Yeah, I think that just reinforcing that this is a real family, that these are your people, these people care about you, those kind of things. Especially for younger people today, they're really interested in authenticity. They really want to know that people love them and care for them. They're not as interested, no offense, Ethan, as preaching. It's just a different time. And
totally.
It's taken me a while to realize that. So, with my one that doesn't want to come every Sunday, I mean, we say it's important. This is your family. You've got Uncle Austin and Aunt Christina. You got, that's what they go by. I mean, so this family, that's what we do.
All right, guys, here's I'd like for you to share how to lead during the difficult seasons of family and fatherhood. And I imagine for many of us, including myself, there's moments where you just feel like the wheels are going to fall off, and you feel like tomorrow could be the last day. What advice would you give, or how have you led during the most difficult seasons of fatherhood?
That was the example that I kind of gave earlier with the daughter who'd run away. Just making sure that you have that community around you for it. The other thing is, once they hit a certain age, I mean, you're in their life by their okay, and so that becomes a whole different relationship and a whole different set of things, and that creates a kind of different things. But always being open and ready. One of the foster daughters, who's lives in Milwaukee, surprised us down here, and she said she was sending a friend down to visit us, and the knock on the door came, and it was her coming to visit. So she's still there, still a part of it. She's the first one who sent me a Father's Day greeting today. Yeah, love you, Daddy. And it's just been an important part. So just being there, being available is an important part through the difficult times.
That's good. Rich?
Yeah, so we're actually in one of those seasons right now with our youngest. She's adopted from China. We adopted her at 9 months old. But it's amazing how the mind is formed and how much damage can be done in a short period of time. So we've been working through issues, and she's actually not with us for the summer. She's at a summer camp to kind of work through some of the things that she's facing with. So for us, it's been being united in prayer, praying together. We've always encouraged that. Typically at night, we would pray together as a family. And it's hearing what's on their hearts, but them also hearing what's on our hearts.
Yeah. And
being able to share that, and just the opportunity to walk through the difficult things with them. And now like I said, on the other side in this kind of transitional period, having my older two daughters being able to walk through stuff with us now is very special. My wife Jen, love her. She takes the brunt of everything with our youngest. So we all have to kind of come around her and encourage her and help her through it. We're all in it as a family, but she's the one that really everything's focused on. So
that's good.
So I'm gonna get comfortable on this one because I've been through a lot of difficult stuff, but so I've got a few things to share. First of all, I think I said earlier, as men in our house, we set the tempo for our house. When we hear verses like be slow to speak, quick to listen, slow to anger. My wife always says one thing to me, and I've shared this with Jacob. She says, Robbie, if you're doing good, then we are good, even if things aren't going good. I'll say that again. Robbie, if you're doing good, then we are good, even if things aren't going good. And so that just speaks to what it means for when the husband is walking with the Lord. There's a sense that they can see the Lord through the husband because they know that there's going to be deliverance. A practical thing for disputes, we used to have a lot of inter-family fighting. And so I established this one rule. At any time everyone's yelling at each other or things are getting heated, anyone can call a timeout. So the timeout is rooted in the verse where there's an abundance of words, sin is unavoidable. And so CK is the best at it. She will call a timeout. When you call a timeout, that means everyone has to be quiet and the person who called timeout gets to talk. It's just a very practical thing that you can do. The third thing, these are just a few verses that we live by or I try. If you know me, this is my favorite verse, Colossians 3:13. Make room for one another's faults. Between me and my kids and me, there's a buffer area where I can be wronged and I can wrong them, and there's an expectation of forgiveness. The verse, I think Romans 12:8, as much as it depends on you, be at peace with all people. That applies to your kids and you as well.
Yeah.
And then I would say another big one for us is 1 Corinthians 13:5, which in one version says love doesn't keep a list of right and wrongs. And that's a big one for our family. There's so many times where I look at my kids and I'm like, you're doing that again. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the list. And because whenever I reach for that list, man, I've got my ammo and I'm ready to unload.
Yeah.
And so they're just some practical things in times of difficulty just to consider.
Yeah, no, that's great. One final question. I'm going to ask Ethan Graves actually to come and set it up. But one final question. Any closing advice, any final advice, final encouragement from each of you for the fathers as well as for the families here today?
Yeah. Two things. Let your faith be public, not private. So just live it out. The second thing, and our kids are 13 and 15 for us, is until you taught on the Holy Spirit, I've never discussed the gifts of the Holy Spirit with my kids, never considered asking them to ask God to show them what gifts he has. It's been really important in our family. It's just, we'd never considered that we should talk to them about that.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So Bob touched on one of them that I was going to bring up is love your wife. I mean, cherish your wife, respect your wife. That sets an example for sons and daughters to see how marriage should be. And you're going to go through tough times and tough spots, and navigating your way through that, apologizing to your children when you've done them wrong. That's a hard thing to do, but definitely do it. And then, one of the things we went through is a period of time where we were reading Psalms and Proverbs in the morning, just me and the older two girls, and then I did with Eliana for a period of time. But it was a great thing. Back when I used to go to work every day, drive to work,
Right.
We would get up and we would meet in one room of the house, and we would read through a psalm, and then we would pray together as we started our day. And to me, that is just a sweet memory for me.
The things that I wrote down are be humble. Don't be afraid to ask for help, and then to stay and be in community.
Yeah, that's good. Amen. Amen. Hey, well, church, would you put your hands together and thank them for, man, thank you, honor you, bless you today. Thank you for leading, and keep up the good work. Yeah. All right.